Let's count down the top 3 most expensive crane accidents ever. On November 27, 2013, a Liebherr LR 11350 crawler crane collapsed at the Arena Corinthians stadium site in São Paulo, Brazil. The crane was lifting a 500-ton roof truss into position, the final section of the stadium roof, only months before the 2014 FIFA World Cup. The Liebherr LR 11350 is a heavy-lift crawler crane designed for complex industrial and stadium projects. It can raise to 1,350 tons with a main boom length of 150 meters, supported by a derrick boom and hydraulic superlift tray that balance enormous loads. The crane runs on 2 crawler tracks, each about 4 meters wide, distributing more than 2,000 tons of total operating weight across the ground. A V8 diesel engine producing over 700 kilowatts powers the winches and hydraulic systems, allowing precise control of movement and lift angles during assembly. That morning, the crane stood on a temporary compacted soil pad near the east stand of the Arena Corinthians. After several days of heavy rainfall, the soil's bearing capacity dropped from 450 kilopascals to less than 200 kilopascals, far below safe limits. When the crane began hoisting the 500-ton roof truss, the rear crawler track sank a few centimeters, tilting the crane by roughly 3 degrees. The shift redirected the load through the boom foot connection, overloading it until the main boom structure failed and the entire crane collapsed backward. At 12:01 p.m., the crane's luffing jib suddenly lost structural alignment. The upper section sheared at the boom foot pins, and the complete boom assembly collapsed onto the partially completed roof in a nearby service building. 2 workers, Ronaldo Oliveira dos Santos and Fabio Luis Pereira, were killed instantly. Liebherr engineers later confirmed that the crane itself was mechanically sound. The failure originated from foundation instability and improper load spread assessment. The lift plan had not accounted for reduced ground pressure limits caused by the rain-softened substrate. The collapse caused damages estimated at over $500 million, delaying the stadium project for weeks. Following the investigation, Brazil's construction regulators enforced stricter controls on ground preparation, lift path monitoring, and weather-based suspension protocols for all large crawler cranes used in urban projects. Fast forward to April 4, 2024, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A new luxury high-rise Riverwalk Residences was nearing its upper floors. At around 4:30 p.m., crews from Phoenix Rigging and Erecting were performing a climbing or step-up procedure. Using hydraulic jacks to raise the Liebherr 630E CH40 tower crane and insert an additional 10-foot mast section, a highly delicate operation requiring perfect alignment, stable anchoring, and precise hydraulic synchronization to keep the crane balanced at over 400 feet above ground.
New video into our newsroom overnight showing the scene where a crane fell onto a bridge. This happened in Fort Lauderdale. Overnight, we are now learning that a worker fell to his death. 3 other people are injured. Now, this was on the Southeast 3rd Avenue Bridge in the city's downtown area.
It's one of the most precise procedures in tower crane operations climbing, where the crane's height is increased as the building rises. Each bolt, pin, and climbing frame section must align within millimeters to maintain balance under load. During the operation at Riverwalk Residences, workers were extending a Liebherr 630 ECH40 tower crane to its next height segment. The crane stood about 400 feet tall, and the process involved hydraulic jacks, lifting the slewing unit while inserting a new mast section below. As 2 riggers worked near the climbing frame, a main support cable carrying vertical load tension suddenly snapped. The failure caused an immediate shock load, forcing the climbing frame to shift laterally several inches. One of the work platforms slipped from its brackets, and Jorge de la Torre, 27, who wasn't properly tied off to a certified anchor point, fell nearly 300 feet to the ground. Seconds later, sections of the mast and jib detached, collapsing onto the street below and crushing 2 cars. 3 people were injured, including Gemalyn Castillo, who sustained severe head trauma from falling debris.
Take a look at this wild video showing the moments part of a crane fell several stories. There it goes. Oh, this was during rush hour traffic too. It happened in Florida back in April. You can see the giant piece of metal crush that car, that driver, incredibly able to walk away.
The collapse caused more than $50 million in damage. OSHA's investigation later found corroded climbing frame parts, cracked bolts, and cables weakened by salt corrosion, reducing steel strength by nearly 30%. Some inspection records were missing entirely. Experts concluded that humid coastal air had accelerated corrosion, and maintenance schedules weren't followed. OSHA fined the contractors over $60,000. It wasn't a mechanical failure, it was a maintenance failure rooted in neglect. Now we move to Manhattan, the site of one of the most expensive and destructive crane collapses in U.S. history. On March 15, 2008, in Manhattan, New York, at 303 East 51st Street, crews were performing a collaring operation, securing a 200-foot Favco M440D tower crane to the building's concrete core as it climbed higher, a critical stabilization process requiring precise alignment, balanced loads, and equal sling tension throughout. During the collaring process, workers were securing a steel support collar designed to stabilize the 200-foot tower crane as it climbed with the building's height. The collar connects the crane's mast to the structure using a series of heavy-duty slings and anchor bolts to prevent lateral sway. On this site, only 6 slings were installed instead of the required 12, cutting the load safety factor in half. When one sling failed under tension, the remaining slings immediately became overloaded. The support collar detached, shifting the crane's center of gravity beyond its support base. Within seconds, the entire mast tore away from the building and collapsed down its side, striking an adjacent structure before crashing into the street below and destroying several townhouses. 7 people, including the operator Donald Leo, were killed and dozens were injured. Property losses exceeded $20 million. Investigators later reported 13 unresolved safety violations issued to the contractor before the collapse. The tragedy led to a major overhaul of New York City's crane safety laws, requiring independent structural inspections, certified supervision, and mandatory load testing before every tower crane operation. It became one of the most significant policy shifts in urban construction safety history, a turning point enforced by tragedy.